So I have had several requests of me making more gluten-free items on YouTube. So this next one is going to be a recipe that has been going around on Facebook. I hadn't heard about it, but my mom shared it, and she wanted me to make her a one of these cakes for Mother's Day. So it is the white chocolate almond raspberry cake. Now, I basically go by the recipe. Um, it is from Baker by Nature on their blog. You can Google it, it's up there. So I'm going to show you what I do with their recipe and how I make it, but it actually turned out much better than I expected. So here we go. So first off, you're going to take 2.5 cups of flour. So I use my specific gluten-free flour. Three teaspoons of baking powder. Half a teaspoon of baking soda. And I omit the salt because there's no need for it. My flour already has salt in it, and I don't like salt, and I have got blood pressure issues, so you can leave out the salt if you want. So you want to mix that up just to get the baking powder and soda mixed in with the flour so good, so you don't have them spread out. You want it all together. Next, you're going to add 1 cup of butter. So I'm taking my 2 sticks of butter, which equals 1 cup, and I'm going to cut pieces off of them and put them in the blender with it. Next, 1.5 cups of sugar. Now the recipe calls for 6 large egg whites. I don't like having to save the yolks separately, and I like the way that the cake tastes with the egg yolks too. So I am just using 5 of my duck eggs.
And he's neat and organized. Like, he just keeps going up, man. Like, the only quote-unquote downside is his weight. It's not like a bunch of those other boys aren't big.
Okay, so we got that in there. Next is our vanilla extract. So you want to make sure you have gluten-free vanilla because that is extremely important. Not all vanilla extract is gluten-free. just accidentally added 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Not that big of a deal. It just gives you a bigger vanilla flavor. So, now it does call for almond extract. I don't really like the almond flavor, but I do like the amaretto. And the amaretto liquor you would actually get for this recipe, but I did not want to go out and get that. So I just ordered extract. I actually got that on Amazon, but it works out quite nice. But it's Olive Nation, it's gluten-free, very nice. I am going to add 2 teaspoons of that. Now, if you're really out for if you're out for the looks of it, you can actually get a clear vanilla extract. I think Wilton makes one. It makes it pretty if you want that solid white cake. I'm not extremely concerned about that. A lot of people are, especially when they do it for professional reasons. But you can get that. So, 3/4 cup of milk. It calls for whole milk. I don't really care if I use whole milk or not. This is 2%.
I don't know.
And 2/3 cup of sour cream.
Who knows? Maybe underneath all this vanilla, that just might be the whole thing.
I'll do it. Somebody do it.
I mean, he gained like 8 pounds.
After that's done, we gotta put it right back. Hold on, also that's a whole lot of work.
So we're gonna mix that.
You said after we take all that weight off, we gotta put all that weight on.
Now, gluten-free is definitely going to give you a different texture, but on this recipe, especially with adding the whole eggs instead of just the egg whites, you actually still get a perfect cake texture. I was very happy with it when I made it last weekend. So, I'm just going to let that mix a minute, and then we will pour them in the cupcake pans, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, we need 2, by the way. I hate good cheese. Awesome work. Dang! That boy moved.
Now, I buy my cupcake cups from a local place. It is actually called the Stock Pot. They have a lot of the stuff that I use there, but you can buy this whole thing, and I think it's only like $5. But you get your plain, basic little cups, and they've got the small ones, they got the really small ones, or well, the regular size cupcakes. They got the small ones, and they got the jumbos too. Jumbos are great, and a lot of people make jumbo cupcakes, but it just seems like it's a little too much cake to eat, and you kind of have to make it with a fork. So it's not particularly one that I really like to make on a regular basis. So I like to go ahead and prepare and put my little cupcake cups in the cupcake. And I got a few left over, so we're just going to put them back in here. Now, if you're local here, on my baking schedule, cupcakes are on my schedule this week. I've got a specific schedule. I do sourdough bread and cinnamon rolls every week, and then I split it up on what else I do, just because this time of year on our farm it is extremely overwhelming, trying to plant, harvest, and all of that stuff. So it gets into way too much stuff and get ready for market. Because like right now, it's Friday night, it's 8 o'clock, we're trying to bake and get ready for market. So it's a little rough around here sometimes. Now, one thing I definitely recommend is a huge ice cream scoop for your cupcakes. You get a regular size. You don't have to have that big of a mess. You just scoop it, click it, falls out, makes it much nicer. So it looks like our batter is ready. So I'm going to spray our cupcake cups. And we're ready to scoop. So gluten-free don't rise as well as regular flour does. So, you know, you usually want to still get it pretty good in there, kind of like that. So I'm going to keep filling these up, and I'm going to pause the video, and then when I finish baking them and go to the next step, we'll come back for that. So I am continuing. I'm actually getting ready to make the icing. Cupcakes are in the oven. I have changed shirts because it has dropped in temperature outside, and while I was baking the cupcakes, I was outside, like I said, gotta get ready for market, picking this basket of radishes, which are some very pretty ones. Look at how huge that thing is. So, got those ready, gotta get them washed, but in the meantime, we're going to make our icing for our white chocolate raspberry Amaretto cupcakes. So we will need a cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. Now you can technically use margarine, but anytime an icing recipe calls for butter, just use butter. Unless you have an allergy and you can't have dairy, you know, then substitute something. You can always use a little mixture of meringue powder, but margarine just does not set up like butter. When it calls for butter, it calls for butter for a reason. You do want it softened to room temperature. This is softened to room temperature, but it's still a little harder than what I would like for icing. So I'm going to just beat it in the mixer for just a little bit. It also calls for 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Right there. And calls for 1.5 teaspoons of amaretto liquor. Like I said earlier, I have the amaretto extract, which is what I got instead of having to get the amaretto liquor. Also calls for 1 teaspoon of almond extract. So I'm going to add that to this and put 2.5 teaspoons of it. So our sugar is going to be 2.5 1.5 cups of sugar, so powdered sugar. There's all kinds of powdered sugar out there. I use the Members Mark just because I'm at Sam's Club and get my bulk supplies oftentimes there. So. I've also already took 6 ounces of white chocolate and melted it in the microwave. What I do to melt my chocolate, because if you get it too hot, it will not work. It'll just actually get hard and then there's nothing you can do for it. So I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. I stir it around real good, then I take it out or put it back in there for 30 seconds and microwave it. And then I stir it until you have your melted consistency. That always, to me, seems like the perfect way of doing it. You do not overheat it that way. Sometimes you have to stir it a little bit more than you might want to, but you don't have that worry of getting it overheated. So as soon as this starts going good, we are going to start pouring the white chocolate. Now you want to almost drizzle it in, because if you put too much in too soon, it's actually going to melt your butter, and then you're going to have a big, nasty mess. So it's all stirred in real nicely, and what we're going to do is I'll take and scrape my bowl just to make sure we got everything off the bottom and everything will be nice and mixed. So you got this perfect icing consistency. You will not get this if you use margarine instead of butter, so use butter. Blend it just a little bit longer. Now, when I say butter, I don't mean like I can't believe it's not butter. And the other things that come in sticks. Use actual butter. If it does not say the ingredients are pasteurized cream and salt or unsalted, then you're not getting butter. So use butter. So there we have it. We have our icing. What's the fun of making cupcakes if you can't taste the icing? So, gotta try to make sure it's good. Just as perfect as it was for Mother's Day. Okay. Well, our cupcake's finished and they cool down. I'm going to finish what I'm doing, but you're not going to want to watch me wash all of these radishes. So we'll be back in a minute. So here we are. The cupcakes are out of the oven. They're not perfectly cooled, but we're going to do step number 3, which is fill them with raspberry filling. So I purchased some raspberry preserves from Kroger. They were actually the natural, can't remember the name of it. Anyway, Simply Truth, something like that. Anyway, it's the organic raspberry preserves. So I put them in that little decorating bag with my little decorating tube. That just kind of pierces the cupcake a little bit better. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your cupcake and you're going to stick that right in there and squeeze till you got jelly coming out. So that's going to put your preserves down in there for you. So we're going to keep doing that on all these cupcakes, because that raspberry preserves makes it really delicious. Now, it just so happens I also made itty bitty little bitty tiny ones. So, if you make little bitty tiny ones, you can do the same thing with it, just like that. So, I'm going to let those finish cooling, and I'm going to finish filling up all the rest of my cupcakes, and then we will start our icing. We are now to step number 4, which is the icing. So, we are going to ice the cupcakes. And we have the privilege of having Morgan here to let us know how delicious they are. So she doesn't want a huge one, so we're going to give her one of these small ones here.
I also don't like icing that much. It is what it is.
Gotta have the raspberry though.
I'm fine.
Okay.
No, you to the point. The rest of them are very fluffy though. They're very good. And I do not like cupcakes, so.
That she doesn't. She does not like cupcakes. But when I made these last weekend, she actually decided she liked these cupcakes.
I'm obsessed with raspberry, so what can I say?
So, if you look there, nice and fluffy. So, make sure you use butter. Make sure you use eggs. And enjoy. And just for you all, I will ice one of these. Now you still have that rolled raspberry in the middle. You can leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. But you're probably going to want to cover it up. So you can make it a pretty little cake. You can swirl it around. This icing is rather thick, most likely because of white chocolate and the real butter, not margarine. So, there is your white chocolate raspberry amaretto cupcakes. So, enjoy and look forward to some more recipes with some better stuff. Well, I don't know if it's going to be better, but it'll be good.
She makes brownies, it will be.
Oh, that's true. We might do that next time. So keep watching, like, and subscribe to our channel.